Hi, welcome to Module 1, Lesson 1. I'm going to go over a couple of examples so that you can see how to use algebra tiles moving forward. So in here, the first thing you guys will need to do is you will need to get into your CPM book. What you'll do is you'll click on one of these. These are active links, and I have active links kind of all over this document as far as also what your practice will be. So I'll get into that in a minute, but you will be clicking into CPM. I've already signed in, but sometimes it'll ask you to sign in. Make sure you sign in with your Google account for your GUHSD. And then I always exit that actually after I've done that. And then I go back in again and click the A1.1 because I do have that linked to where you will start your lesson. So after you've logged in and you are on here, this is where we will have both our lesson and our practice. So the first thing you guys are learning about is algebra tiles. So if you look at A-1, I'm going to go over this example right here to kind of give you a feel for algebra tiles. Algebra tiles, you may or may not have used before, are ways to represent expressions. We're going to start with expressions and move on to equations in this unit. So the first thing that I'll do, I'm going to actually pull up the algebra tile. I encourage you to use this also for your practice. You can actually take pictures of your work, and here I would take pictures of your algebra tiles, and then you can import those into your document, your homework document. That's probably going to be the easiest way. I'm going to pull this off of my screen just so that we can look at them side by side. But this is an example of an algebra tile mat that we're going to use. So in this first one, I have, so let me drag this around just so you guys can see both here together. So it says here the tiles have a positive and negative side. So I want to show you what that looks like on the actual CPM mat site. If I want to pull over an x squared and I want to look at that, I can click it one time and it will turn to negative. It's red on here. In here, when we get to negatives, they will actually be represented with white instead. So all of these are different colors. When I pull over a y squared, it's purple. I can also make it red, which will be negative. So that's the function of these. If we don't want them any longer, we can drag them back to their spot. I'm, by the way, finding that under the algebra tiles. It should pop up automatically if you're using that one, but if not, you can go there. We will also be using different backgrounds. Like later on, I'm going to be using what's called an expression mat, which is right here. So that's under backgrounds. So right now I'm not using a background, but I will be at some point going to expression mat and looking at them here. So that's just some familiarity with the program itself. So right now I'm going to turn off that background and put no background, and we are going to look at algebra tiles. So in here, this jumbled up pile of algebra tiles, I feel like it's easier to see them in here. Easier to see them in here. So I will do that in a second when we do our first example, but the y squareds are bigger than the x squareds. Here they make a drastic difference. So when we look down at this pile right here, this is clearly a y squared. Whereas these little ones right here, those are all x squareds. So the way we would write this expression is we would write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's squared. I'm actually going to write that down and then I'll show you guys. So I would write 6 x's squared. I'm now going to count the y squareds. So here's one. It looks like I only have one big one. So it's going to be a positive plus a y squared. Now I'm going to look at the xy's, the x by y's, which look like this. It looks like I have 1, 2, just 2 of those. So I'm going to put plus 2xy. I'm actually going to flip over now so you guys can see the screen that I'm working on, the document camera screen. There it is. So I'll put 2xy, and now I'm going to go to the x's. Let's do x's first. So I have here, the x's are the small ones like this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So plus 4 x's. And now I have my y's are the much longer ones. It looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, plus 6y. And then if I had any ones, which it doesn't look like I have any ones here, the ones are tiny. They look like this. So I could maybe put, like if I had this one right here, I would put +5. If I had these and they weren't colored in, I would put -3. So then I would have -3. But here we don't have a constant. That is our expression that we have right here. This jumbled up pile ends up turning into this. Okay, so now I'm going to actually move on and show you guys how I would build this. So if I had, this is a homework problem and it said to build this in algebra tiles, I'm gonna do A right here. Okay, so let me show you what that would look like for me. I'm gonna expand this right here and I would put 3 X's. So I would have 1, 2, 3. If you guys wanted to snap them together, you're welcome to do that. I tend to not. I tend to just kind of keep them separated, but I do kind of keep them together. If you double click, they turn, but we won't need to do that. Okay, so I have my 3 X's. I have a +5. Okay, so that's a numerical value. That's this right here. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Then I have an x squared, so I'll pull this one over. Notice these are all positive so far. I have a y, which is this tile right here, so I'll put that on there. I have 3 more x's squared. Oh, interesting. They haven't simplified it for us. So we'll do that in just a minute, where we'll simplify it so that way we have it correct. And then I have 2 more, +2. Okay, I'm gonna add those over here. So for your homework, if I got this, I would actually just take a screenshot of this and then that goes into the document. That screenshot will get popped into my homework document and I would call it a day on that problem. Although it does say here, now explain what the algebraic expression would be or simplify it, which is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna simplify this. So to simplify it, you count how many x's squared you have first. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's squared. So I would probably take a picture of this, but then also for number 1, let's say that this is 1a that we're doing, okay? For 1a, I am going to now simplify this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. We put the x's squared first. 4 x's squared, and we tend to go down in value from there. So I'm gonna put the x's next, although I could put the y if I wanted to, but I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3 x's plus 3 x's, okay? Now I'm going to put my y plus y, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 ones. We call those ones. Okay. I'm going to do one more of those just so you guys can see. So I'm going to actually exit out of this here. Let me see. I wonder if I can start over. Nope, not there. Clear tiles, there we go. So I'm gonna clear my tiles. And now I'm going to actually, yeah, you know, we can do this one. Here, give me a second. It slid onto my other screen and I don't have my screen on. So let me go ahead and grab it again. So we'll go ahead and do this one as the last one that we do on these. So I'm gonna put my +2, and this time I'll do it a little different. I'll go ahead and pop them together. I'll put an x squared, and then we have 3 x's. So maybe I put those here, 1, 2, and 3. This is all preference based. If you want to pop them together, go for it. I'm going to put my y squared. I'm going to put my 4 y's. So 1, notice how the y's are bigger. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have xy, just an xy, which is down here. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify the expression that we have over here. So the way that we would simplify b, well, actually it's c on here, but our second one would be to put our x squared. Okay, then I'm going to put my plus y squared. I only have one of each of those. So you can put a 1 in front if you wanted to. Now I'm going to do my x's again. So I have 3 x's. I have 4 y's. And I'm going to put my xy, and we'll talk later about how this could also go in front here after the y squared. But for now, that doesn't make any difference. But then we have our numbers usually at the very end, our +2. I'll get you guys in the habit of doing that now. So we have 2, and that is the simplified version of that. Okay, so moving on from there, let's get some negatives involved and what we call an expression mat. So an expression mat looks like this. It has positive values and it has negative values down here. So this one right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's minus, so the negative ones are down here, minus 2 y's. These are all positive values, so that's why it is 5 x's minus 2 y's. It gets more complicated when you have a situation like we're going to talk about in C here. That's a minus, and these are negatives, minus and negative in math. So those are going to get a little more complicated. So I'm going to call this my number 2, and we're going to kind of talk about each one of these. So this one here in A, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it. In A, what we have here, I always look at my positives first. I have 2 x's, and then I have 1, 2, 3, but they're on the negative. So this would actually be 2x minus 3. For B, so that was A. For B, we have this one. And what we have here is we actually have negative 1, 2, 3 x's, negative 3x, because remember, our negative here is going to be a white one, okay? So negative x, and then I have minus my xy, okay, my xy, and then still my minus, this is the minus side, minus 2. Okay, moving on to C. The one I told you is a little bit more challenging because of the negatives. So on the positive side, I always work on the positive one first. I have an x squared. And then down here though, I have a minus y, and a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, minus a negative 4. When we have minus a negative, it actually turns into a positive. So this would actually be equal to x squared minus y plus 4. Plus 4. Okay, I'm going to show you that one actually on here. On here, that'll be the first one that I actually do as my background being an expression mat. So if I have this background as an expression mat, then I could go ahead and I want to get back to the algebra tiles and have them here. I have an x squared. I have these right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, but I'm going to take them and I'm going to flip them over. You just single click them and they now are negative. And then I have my y, which will be solid. One way to do this, if you see it better this way, is you can move them to the positive side. You can move them to the positive side, but when they go over this line, they flip so that now you have positive. If I moved this one over this line, you'd still have to flip it. So it would be a negative. That's another way you could see this expression. Anytime anything from the negative side goes to the positive, you just need to flip your algebra tile. Okay, and you would end up with this same expression right here. Okay, that's the last one we're gonna do on here. Although this one's kind of interesting too. I might take that one and I might actually take all of these and flip them up and make them negative. Actually, you know what? I'm doing D. I'm doing D because it's a great problem to look at. So for this one, I'm going to clear the tiles. I'm going to make it look just like this one. So I need to drag it over here really quick. I am going to drag an X on here. I'm going to drag another X. If I want to make it look just like it, I could take this one and spin it. Not that it makes much of a difference. I'm going to drag 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to drag another one over here, but remember that means that it's negative. And now these down here are all positive, right? Those are all positive. One way to do this is to drag this up and flip it. Drag this up and flip it. Drag this up and flip it. And now what I have for D, here is I have 2 X's still. They're all on the positive side. So I have 2 X's. And now these right here, I really have plus 2 minus 4. Plus 2 minus 4. So I end up with 2x minus 2. You can almost think of these as counteracting each other, right? Like those go away, so I end up with these right here. Okay. So on here, you guys are going to actually have some practice where you'll be doing that same thing and you'll be showing me your algebra tiles and your algebra mats. I'm going to go back over here really quick and look at one more example from A1.2, and it is number 16 that we're going to look at, just to kind of show you another way that you might see algebra expression mats. So in this one right here, you'll notice that they're doing the movement that I've already talked about. You have your X's, you have your 1 here, and one way to do it is to move them up and flip them. So this is how your book does it. You've seen me do it in action as well. And now you could actually get rid of these together, like just take them off the mat altogether, which I could have done over here with our last example. I could have gone, you know what, I don't need these anymore because these go away. Like those counteract or cancel each other out. So now I have this. So this is how you might see it in your book, that same process. You end up with X and then just a -1 because those went away. So that is a way that we can go through and change the expression mat. Okay, so today you will be going to the practice and you will be practicing some of what we just saw. In order to get to the practice, I'm actually going to show you where that is. Under Module 1, you have assignments here. And under your assignment, you have your different problems that you will work through. So please feel free, and I like to zoom in so I can actually see them. If it's hard for you on your computer to zoom in or to see them, I actually have links right here where you can link straight to the book and it goes straight to that problem. In fact, I'll do that just so you can see. It takes you straight to number 9 if you want to work from there. There's homework help there as well. If you want to work from it here, that's totally fine. I also put the homework help link here. I tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. So if you do want to use the algebra tile mat, you're welcome to do so. That's something I would actually bookmark in your, it's actually up here if you guys want to see where to get it. It's under eTool on whenever you have your book open. Does not matter what page you're on, there's always this little eTool. And you can go to tiles, and it will take you to algebra tiles. So I would keep this open for you because it is helpful to have that open. If you have any other questions, please feel free to come to my Zoom meeting on Wednesday, and I will make sure to go over all of the questions that you might have. Thank you for joining in, and I hope to see you in class or in my Zoom.